plugged in because my power's covered. There you go.
Yes, Mr. Sly.
Yes, sir.
I just had the pleasure of viewing your video, and I want to congratulate you on your extraordinary judgment and what you have arrived at in terms of what my late wife, Delores, was trying to do for the young people, for young black people of this nation. And you seem to have captured her spirit, her motives, and her intent. You seem to have captured it to the T. And I want to congratulate you on your apology and on your efforts to make America aware of what we were involved in and what we were trying to do to create a better future for the young people, for the young black people of America.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm beyond humbled. I have no words. I'm humbled. I'm beyond humble. So I do thank you. I'm glad it struck a nerve in a positive way with you. So I'm eternally grateful. It was, when the spirit moves you, the spirit moves you.
Pardon?
I said, when the spirit moves you, the spirit moves you.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm glad the spirit got to you and moved you because you presented the way I viewed you on the video. You relate to the young millennials who need to be related to, and some of the older people who need to be reawakened as to what they did to some of the young people of this nation. And they need to be aware of the damage they have done because a lot of them profited for it, but we as a race, we did not profit. We lost severely. And we've lost too many of our young minds, great minds, to the trash heaps of history because of that gangster rap music they were listening to. And that's what my late wife was concerned about. And she literally gave her life for that cause because the day before she died in the hospital, she asked that 2 phones be brought into her room, her dying room, so that she could continue her fight against this sinister and degrading music that was destroying our young people.
Well, now I was a teenager back then, and I couldn't grasp the whole scope of her movement. So if you could give us insight, what motivated her to do so, what was the end goal, the end result for her, and like whatever trials and tribulations you guys went through, because I can imagine you guys caught a lot of heat and backlash for it, and I always felt you guys never had a chance to tell your side of the story properly and on a proper format.
Well, you're quite accurate about that. We suffered 3 lawsuits by the entertainment industry designed to shut her up. And of course, the more they tried to, the worse she got. Because there's one thing I can say about my late wife. I was married to her almost 57 years. And I never saw her I never experienced her waking up in the morning expressing fear about anybody or anything. She was the most fearless woman I have ever encountered in my life. Even though I said that, not because she was my wife, because it's a fact. She did not fear anything or anybody. And that's why she took on the fight. She knew it was wrong. She knew what the consequences of it was going to be. And she was willing to dedicate her life to that, which she literally did, because she died hospital room with gangster rap on her mind. And young people, she was concerned about young people, young black people of America.
Let me say something.
Sure, hold on.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the people we were trying to put, because this was all spontaneous tonight. And one of the people who I mentioned to you that I wanted you to meet and talk with is a guy named Kyle Morris, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, a year ago, I was at an event at the African American Museum. Now, I work for a grant-funded program in the city of Philadelphia, and what I do is we do a free business training program for business owners in Philadelphia. Now, small business owners, okay? So with that, it's a free program. Philadelphia is 44% Black. We got 2% of the businesses in the city that are Black-owned. This is crazy, okay? That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't build this as a Black initiative, but what we have is that because we have a population that's damn near half Black, it was actually a really brilliant city councilwoman who's here in Philadelphia now. Like a lot of cities, Philadelphia tried to get Amazon to come here, and they were ready to give them $1 billion in tax breaks and all this stuff. Paying taxes now, Mm-hmm. Everybody down to these rich people, and they don't make them responsible for paying anything, and they underpay the employees. A lot of whom, they can brag about how they got low unemployment for Black people, but a lot of these jobs are unsustainable. You can't even afford to rent an apartment on minimum wage anywhere in the United States, okay? Mm-hmm. So anyway, they were going to do this thing with Amazon. We failed to get it in Philadelphia. And this woman named Sherelle Parker, who's a city council person here, said, what are we doing for the existing small businesses in the neighborhood? Now, when you drive through Black neighborhoods, okay, you'll see some empty stores, and you'll see some national stores, those CVS or Walgreens or whatever. You'll see phone stores, and you'll see dialysis centers, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the people struggling in these neighborhoods, the 2% of Black-owned businesses that are operating in the city with 45% Black population, okay? What's happening now is with gentrification, I don't know where the hell they're coming from, but you got people buying up buildings, people, and even white people are getting kicked out of neighborhood stores. Like, because it's a city-funded program, I can't say I'm recruiting for Black people, but we widely look at the underserved corridors, which often are Black or brown or immigrant or whatever, okay? Mm-hmm. But white people are struggling with this too, all right? So a developer comes in, they buy up a block of stores, okay? All of a sudden, everybody's rent goes up double or triple. So now what are you going to do? You're out. So in the meantime, I'm recruiting for business owners, and I'm at the African American Museum, and the first table I walk up to, I started explaining, I'm doing this thing, it's free business training. We're giving people very high-level business training to help them compete in the 21st century. And the brother that's there, he was, listen, wow, that's amazing. He said, you sound like one of them do-good kind of people. I said, I guess I got it honest because my late aunt was Delores Tucker. And I said, have you ever heard of her? Now, this is his response. What have I heard of her? He said, in 2005, I was on house arrest. He said, I was headed for jail. I was going to be a high school dropout. I was 15. And I got into the Martin Luther King Center Association program for College for Teens, which was an initiative that my late aunt started for teens to get inner city youth in a college for summer to help them work on improving their grades, their SAT scores, all of that. So this boy at 15 said he got caught in this program when he was on house arrest with an ankle bracelet, right? Mm-hmm. He got the program in 2005 in the summer. She died in October. He said that program turned my life around. Not only did I graduate from high school, but I went to college and got a bachelor's degree. I have a master's degree. He said, I now own a for-profit and non-profit company, and I'm working on my PhD. Wow. So I immediately called my uncle, now who lives in D.C. now, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, I said, this guy is who we need to talk to. So that's who I'm trying to get to come on the program, all right, with us. Now, this was spontaneous. I showed my uncle and my cousin and my mom your video just tonight. We had dinner at my house. and we couldn't reach Kyle, but that's the third person I want you to be able to talk to.
Okay.
Because, this is all about a progression of directing Black people into greatness. Prior to, her whole history and our whole history and a lot of people's history in the whole civil rights thing has been a complete struggle. So to give you an analogy, if you are a student and you get into college, every credit card company is going to give you a credit card. It's so easy to dig the hole, but then try to get out of it. So what we're trying to do is get out of the hole, okay? And with that, with the civil rights movement, with all that stuff, when Auntie was Secretary of the Commonwealth, one of the things she did is she appointed more women, more Black, more everybody to judgeships and positions of power. When you walked through those halls before she was there, all you saw was pictures of white men. When she got there, she started putting people in place. Now, I'm going to tell you, I had a situation where I had to sue somebody, which I don't like doing, okay? And when I went to the mediator, they're saying, oh, listen now, girl, you got to understand that nobody really gets everything they want in the mediation, right? So I was suing a company I worked for that had done something. I mean, they basically denied me rights after I had an injury at the job. So they're telling me now I got to accept 50% of the offer that my case is worth. And I said, let me tell you first part. First part, my job at this company was negotiating sales. And if I accepted 50% offer on what they were selling, I would have been fired, all right? So that is not even going to happen. I said, part B of this is you, Judge, this is a white woman, Judge. I said, the only reason you're even sitting here is because my aunt put you in this job, okay? So guess what? And she was like, who's your aunt? I said, see, Delores Tucker. And she had to, choke. She was like, yeah, you're right. So, yeah, my negotiation was like, I get what I want. And I got it, all right? Now, I don't want to get too far off the track, but we got a current president in office, and he's an idiot. And anyway, he's a criminal. And what they are doing, the Republicans don't even like him, okay? But what they are doing while he's there is that he's such a distraction that they're allowing them to be able to appoint judges and things like that for lifetime positions that will continue to affect everything that we do for 30 years. Yeah, that's my mom in the background, okay? So we just, I get challenged because there's so many layers to this that all of that's in my head because I see it all. But to do it in a conversation and in a meme and in a Facebook post and in a YouTube video, it's a very short avenue for disseminating information. And most of us have been reconditioned in the 21st century to not want to know the details. Okay, so without knowing the details, we come to faulty conclusions, right? Basically, there are layers to this that go beyond that. But what she saw when she heard that music is that after spending years and decades and energy on creating a narrative that Black people are, one, talented, two, skilled, and qualified to do things, all of a sudden, we're calling each other N-words, thieves, and hoes, and gangsters, And she also saw that this was created. Music is powerful. It creates not only a local narrative, but a narrative that has been sold worldwide. Now, I've lived in the U.S., I've lived in the Caribbean, I've lived in Miami and D.C. and Philly and some other places, right? But look at music everywhere. Japanese people are doing rap music, okay? McDonald's commercial is rap music. We are so talented as a race and so powerful that even when they suppress us, we dominate their entire culture. You see it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You see it. They took music out of the school, which is what led to the development of people who don't sing or play instruments becoming musicians. And that's how powerful we are. That even if you take away the education of it, we still invent something that you copy and steal and try to make your own. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I'll watch movies where you don't see a black face in the movie, but then they got Stevie Wonder and Smokey Robinson and Biggie and everybody else in the musical narrative of the film, but you won't see a single one of them.
That is true.
Repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me ill. It makes every commercial. I mean, look around. It's everywhere. We dominate the culture, but we get no credit for it. And I mean, that thing with, what was that movie? That last one in the Rocky series. Dude goes to the Golden Globe. He forgets to thank the director and his co-stars. Are you serious?
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, it's pervasive and it continues because we keep allowing these narratives that say that we are less than, and we are not less than. We are it. Oh, anyway, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're good. Can you, for you, how was it growing up during that time? Because like I said, I was a teenager, and the one thing that I remember above anything else was the steamroller and just rolling over the tapes. And, you know, the media crafted one narrative. Of course, I'm not wise enough to understand there's levels to it. But for you, during when it got hot, how was it for you, and how did you handle it?
Well, there's a few things. Yeah, my mom's saying this. I was busy all the time. Our family, Delores Tucker was my grandmother's sister. I said that in the comment I made on the YouTube thing. Right? Mm-hmm. And my great grandparents were business people, and they were immigrants from the Bahamas. And there were 14 of them.
Oh wow!
Okay? And they landed in Philly. And they were business people. Several stops, but they landed in Philly. And although we were here, and you know, people look at you and they see you as black, we had a mindset that was a little different, probably. Yeah, and I will say this: we live in a city, in the part of the city, Philadelphia, Mount Airy, this section of the city. Well, okay, that was before me, Mom. I was in the Mount Airy part. So Mount Airy, starting in the 50s and 60s, has a late 50s and 60s, became the most successfully integrated neighborhood in the United States. Okay, mm-hmm. So when you at the list of people who lived here, they were Tuskegee Airmen, you know, they were doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, teachers, educators, business people, whatever, you know. There's a national company now called the Pyramid Club. That's a white thing, but the original Pyramid Club started in Philadelphia in the hood in North Philly, but it was populated by black people who were all professionals. They went to HBCUs. You know, they emigrated here from the South to North Philly, and then they came to Mount Airy. So now Mount Airy today is about 65% black. And with that, you know, we live in gigantic, ridiculous stone houses, okay? Single houses, they're not row homes. Lots of trees, lots of all that. And if you look up Mount Airy, Philadelphia, USA, there's a Wikipedia article about it, mm-hmm. and it'll give you a list of judges and doctors and this and that. You know, Grover Washington lives here. I mean, this was that place. All right.
Okay.
So I grew up in a very insular community that was supportive of blackness because I was surrounded by. One of the other nicknames for this neighborhood is the PhD ghetto. Okay, so. It was integrated and it was supportive, but it was real clear to me when I went out of this neighborhood that the rest of the world wasn't like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I grew up because my aunt was so connected with certain people, is that a lot of the people that you see historically in the civil rights movement came to family dinners. my aunt did a tribute to Rosa Parks at the Kennedy Center in D.C. And during those years, a lot of times I was responsible for logistics for Rosa Parks. So, you know, when we would go to an event, I was in the car with her, but then I would be the one to say, I'm sorry, no more autographs. We have to make it to the next thing. And I would be the one to tell people no, so she could always be saying yes, you know. So we would usher her to the next location. So, I mean, I grew up in that area. I was clearly aware that the rest of the United States wasn't like that. I was also clearly aware that it wasn't like that outside of my neighborhood. You know, when I was a teenager, if Philly is known for its neighborhoods, and a lot of them are white ethnic neighborhoods. So if you go in neighborhoods, in my teenage days, and I saw a lot of U.S. flags hanging out people's doors, I know that I was going to get my butt kicked if I didn't get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Like ethnic white neighborhoods, Irish, Italian, whatever. Now today, those neighborhoods are further integrated by a lot of immigrants from Asia, Europe, you know, wherever the hell, Russia. You know, there's in my job doing what I do, like the part of Philly that used to be heavily white ethnic, Irish, Polish, blah, blah, blah. Today, I walk down 3 blocks of commercial corridor and nobody spoke the same foreign language as a first language. It's so integrated now with immigrants that even the original white, Jewish, or Polish people that were there, they can't take it, you know? So everything's changing due to one, gentrification, and 2, immigration. So, you know, it is what it is, but I see it really clearly because in the job that I do now, I go to every neighborhood of the city. But as far as the gangster rap thing, you know, when I first discovered it, it was during a Christmas dinner when one of my cousins, who's now in his 40s, he got this album, it was a Snoop album. And she was like, what? I mean, yeah. No, the album, it was an album, not a CD. So when you opened it, it was like a picture of the Last Supper, Paradise, you know, and then the lyrics were written down there. She immediately went on the warpath with that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Sesame Street already existed, so the idea that music, in fact, there was a DJ here, Doug Henderson, Jocko. He was like a 50s DJ, and if you look him up on YouTube, he started using language back in the 50s, and he really started this concept, understanding how music works on your mind. You know, you can listen to music and learn lyrics without even trying.
True.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So he was one of those early people that said, why don't we use this for education? Now, his son is still here and still works in radio. Jocko Henderson was a famous DJ in the 50s, lived around the corner from here. Yeah, he really was, like in the 50s, the 50s version of rap was about education a lot, and it was radio, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that you can put things in people's minds through music had been enforced already through Black music way before that. And the point that my aunt made is that these executives at that point in the music industry were deliberately using it to create a negative narrative about Black people, you know, and poison our minds and poison our progress. And, you know, looking at the history of the U.S., they've always done things to slow our roll and progress. I mean, look at what they did with, you know, Black Wall Street in Oklahoma and with whatever. It's like, if we said, okay, we don't need to be working with you, white people, we're going to do our own thing over here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There was in the movie Mississippi Burning, where Gene Hackman talks about how his father killed the Black man's mule because he just couldn't have a Black person do better than him, you know?
I remember that.
This and the attitude that has been crushing us constantly, and this music was used by the music industry executives who were not Black at that beginning point. They used it against us. They poisoned our minds. they put the money out there, and a lot of people went for it and sold us out, and still doing it. You're right. You know, all this. I mean, anyway, you can see I get really caught up.
No, it's quite all right. During that time, from what you can remember, did she have people that kind of distance themselves from her because of whatever pending backlash she was facing at the time?
Let me let my uncle answer that part.
Okay.
Yes. All of your so-called national black leaders, all of them are trying to avoid her because they did not want to be seen talking or communicating to her because they did not want the entertainment industry to deprive them of the clothes that they were getting from the entertainment industry.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
The entertainment industry called my wife, late wife, down to the Watergate Hotel. I don't know whether you know what the Watergate Hotel is.
I've heard of it. Yes, sir.
In Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
They called her to the Watergate Hotel. It was about 7 of them, industry people, and asked her what she wanted to stop her crusade against them. Because as one executive said to her, you know, you are interfering with billions of dollars in money for what you're doing. And they wanted to know what she wanted to stop. And she said, I don't want anything from you. All I want you to do is to stop the music. That was her response to them.
And I want to make it clear, she wasn't against the format of the music. She
No.
was against the lyrics that disparage black people.
Yeah, and of course, this is something that very few people are aware of. In fact, the public has no awareness, but it can be confirmed. If you ever have a chance to talk to Suge Knight, and I know you know who Suge Knight is.
Yes, sir.
She had a good relationship with Suge Knight. And I know you would say, well, how could that be? That's not what the press said. But if you ever talk to Suge Knight, he's still living. He would say that Delores was a woman that he respected, that he admired, and he treated her like he would treat his own mother. That's the kind of relationship she had with Suge Knight. And he was in the business of trying to change his music. She told him, keep the beat, but stop the lyrics. And he said, I can do that.
Wow, I never would have known that.
Never talked. And when Suge Knight was sentenced, the first time he was convicted in Los Angeles, the judge asked him, Mr. Knight, is there anyone you would want to speak to before you have to be discharged from the courtroom? He said, yes, I would like to speak to Mrs. Delores Tucker. That was the request that Suge Knight made before he was sent to jail. And if you ever talk to him, he will confirm that. And he told his boys, he said, you treat her with respect. His gang was there in the courtroom, and she went outside and had a meeting with his gang.
Wow.
The most notorious gang in L.A., and she was standing right in the middle of them. And they respected her because Suge Knight had told them to respect her.
So, if you don't mind, how was it for you during that time? How were you dealing with it emotionally, spiritually?
Well, it wasn't a problem for me. And I guess the good Lord prepared me for that long before I ever met her. I had a father who told me when I was a little boy, he said, son, be careful who you give your name to. So one day I finally asked him, well, Daddy, why do you keep saying, be careful who you give your name to? And he said to me, any woman that you ever give your name to, you need to be prepared to defend her honor with your life if necessary. So that was always my attitude. I was always willing to give my life to defend the honor of my wife if necessary.
And he ain't thinking about that. I mean, we
So, and that's always been one of my primary principles of life. So therefore, it never bothered me one iota. I supported her morning, noon, and night, and was always ready. And as I said at her funeral, I never thought I would be standing before her funeral. I thought she would be standing before mine, because I was always ready to give my life to defend her honor.
Okay. If somebody steps to my aunt the wrong way, OMG, watch out.
So that's my response to your question on that, sir.
So I know you guys are busy with MLK weekend, and I don't want to.
Coming up Monday, but Kenny wanted me to talk to you because I just came in town last night. I should have been here earlier, but I told her I wanted to see your video and talk to you because I appreciated so much your observation, and to know that I have lived long enough to witness it in person is a real honor and a privilege and a tribute.
Now, that means a lot to me. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Any final thoughts that you want people to know, to take away from your wife, your late wife?
No, she was a woman who was fearless and who was uncompromising in advancing the interests and the interests of Black people in America. He was dedicated to that proposition of advancing Black people, the interests of Black people in America, because we have been shortchanged in so many respects, and that she felt that we needed to make up for that, and we did not need anyone using any issue to sidetrack the interests of our interests in America.
Okay, awesome.
Now, maybe that's so good, but she was dedicated to the proposition that Black people had been shortchanged in America, and that we needed to make up for it some way, somehow.
Final question: do you believe she would do it all over again the same way, or you think she would have changed some things up if she had to do it again?
She wouldn't have changed a single thing. There's nothing she could have changed to have gained the support of people, because most people, the entertainment industry, had millions of dollars to sidetrack the issues and to create other issues instead of the main issue was the music they were producing, because they were making millions of dollars of what they were doing. And she would not have changed anything, sir, because that was the kind of woman she was.
I'm going to say one more thing, Fly.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I'm a generation slightly before that. I mean, I grew up with like Earth, Wind, and Fire, talking about positivity, you know, outstanding, you know, that's the music I came with. And to have it switch like that was like, what the hell is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what the hell is that? You know, I know even with things like, and Phil Collins, for instance, I loved her voice, loved her music. She was a person who lived in Philadelphia, beautiful voice. And her lyrics, a beautiful woman, true. But her lyrics were always based on deprivation. I'm nothing without a man. I ain't got no man. You know, it was too depressing. I bought one CD of hers, and when I listened to it, I was like, can't do this. You know, because that can't be my narrative.
Gotcha.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Same Tracy Chapman. You know, I love the sound of Tracy Chapman. She was all new when that came out. And then I bought the CD, and when I read what those lyrics were, her life was very, you know, her songs were about a decrepit life. I gave that thing away immediately, because the narrative of my life and the music I have to listen to, it either has to have no words or it has to have words about positivity. Because first of all, we know as Black people that this world isn't really supportive of us. So I'm not going to want to listen to anything that gives me one moment of negativity. Not going to do it. I get up in the morning and I got to have something going positive in my head, because I know what I have to face every day at work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I think that's the attitude that I grew up with. Is like, don't let these people turn your head into something negative, you know. Or and even the TV shows. Almost all the shows are cop shows and death and destruction and this. And a lot of our shows that we celebrate, scandal. Really, that's the way you want to frame your life. You want to have that narrative in your head. One of the things I used to sell back in the day is I worked for jewelry people and I sold engagement rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you have people that come in at the happiest moment of their life to buy an engagement ring. But then you're going to listen to all that crap music and all that negativity, really? And start doing this display of whatever. I had a guy that came to me one time, a black guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he was with his fiance and he was looking sour. And here I was thinking, wow, he is the wrong dude to marry. She went up to the ladies' room and then he explained to me that he had bought her a ring for $4,000 a few months ago. And, with her little TV scandal, housewives, whatever drama thing she did, she threw it down the sewer.
Oh.
So I was thinking she was the pious, nice girl. She was like, I don't want to spend too much. I want to spend like a few $100s, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, and he's sitting there looking like a sourpuss. But she had thrown away an uninsured $4,000 ring that he saved his coins for. The fact that he even came back to buy another one, I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
But we're hearing narratives that are wrong. And whether it's man, woman, or whether it's black and we're N-words, Z's, or hoes, you can't have those narratives in your head and think that your life is going to work.
That's we're in alignment. I totally agree. Wow, a lot of stuff you gave me a lot of stuff to think about in retrospect, and I'm humbled beyond measure. And
I'm saying again, my whole family that has sat here, it was just me and 3 others tonight, but we are absolutely in gratitude of the fact that you came out with this. When I saw it, and I don't know what I was looking for the other day, but I was looking for something and I was looking for Auntie, and then I saw yours and I was like, we owe her an apology. What is this about? And I was like, oh my gosh, y'all got to hear this. I is the man. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I noticed you were riding in a car when you were making those observations.
Yes, sir, I was.
What gave rise to those observations while you were riding in a car?
Honestly, it literally just came to me right then and there. I didn't have any I didn't watch any of the old news footage or anything. Like, it just came to me literally. I can't take credit for it. I give it to a higher power, but it was literally just on the way to work, and it dawned on me to say something about it. So, and then plus I always felt that she never got a fair shake during the whole time, because like I said, I was a teenager then, and I couldn't understand the layers and all the politics behind it. And I couldn't find anything as to her explaining her side of the story or anything of that nature, anything that put her in a positive light. There's always such a negative attachment to it. So
right, the media found all of that out.
Yeah,
because the entertainment industry spent millions of dollars trying to make it a one-sided affair. They misrepresented everything about her. But if you ever get a chance to talk to Suge Knight, I wish you would do it, and you could get the real story, because it's totally different. She was not against them. She just wanted them to change the lyrics. She told Suge Knight, the beat is great. Don't change the beat, but you can change the lyrics. And Suge Knight agreed with her. He said, give me some time. I have to work it out with some of my artists and everything, and some of the people who were behind him. And if you find out, if you do a little digging, you'll find out the attorney that was a lawyer who owned Death Row and was making him do the stuff that he was doing. And they turned on Suge Knight. The full story of all that has yet to be told.
Yeah, I know who his attorney was, David Kenner at the time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
David Kenner. And he was the one behind all of that mess. He would not let Suge Knight change anything. and he was responsible for 3 lawsuits being brought against my wife to try to stop her because they figured they could intimidate her. But they didn't know that there was no force that could intimidate C. Delores Tucker on the planet.
Wow.
They tried everything. They had investigators going around the country trying to find dirt on me. They came to Philadelphia and went to every bar in Philadelphia and said, well, who does he come in here with? But what they didn't know, I don't attend. I've never gone in any bars in Philadelphia unless I was with my wife and she was going in there to speak against something, for something or campaigning for someone. But they didn't know that, so they just thought that they could dig up a lot of dirt and shut her up.
Mm-hmm.
They had two of the best investigators in the country. Guys that were working on Clinton at one time, and they were working on me all over the country trying to find dirt, and they to bring up at depositions. My wife had to go through 17 depositions. That's a story that nobody knows that's ever been told. 17 depositions trying to break her.
Wow. Thank you for telling me all this. We would have never have known had.
It's just maybe as time develops, we'll have a chance to explore it. And you're a young man, and you have a strong voice, and I was impressed deeply by listening to you and the observations you made.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to talk with you guys again. Definitely. I hope to keep this thing going. Yeah, definitely.
And where are you?
I'm outside. I'm outside of Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, anyway, maybe the time will come where we'll be able to meet in person and maybe do some things, because I believe with your approach, and you were there, you were part of it, and you could address it much more than I could ever address it, because they would say I have a self-interest involved.
Oh yes, sir. I would love to. Definitely.
Yes. So anyway, I'll turn you back to Kitty.
Okay.
And the next year, before every holiday, every Martin Luther King holiday, Mrs. Coretta Scott King asked my late wife, C. Delores Tucker, to establish an organization in Philadelphia that would arrange for the ringing of the Liberty Bell to inaugurate the King holiday. And that's what we do now. Since they asked me to take it over when she died,
okay.
And I have to take it over, and we will be having a celebration at the Liberty Bell Monday to inaugurate the King holiday. And we do that every day of every Martin Luther King holiday. That's what we do.
That's awesome. Wow, nice. Wow.
So look forward to us interacting, and maybe next year you'll be here to celebrate with us.
It's a date.
All right. Hold on a moment.
Yes, I'm glad we made the connection, and I'd like to keep it going if we can.
Definitely. By all means, I plan on keeping in touch with you guys, and definitely whenever you guys feel like you guys want to say something, I'm here to listen.
Yeah, and my other question is, what we had talked about is possibly doing, I guess, a webinar with you. Yeah,
we could do a video chat, or if worst case, if we can't, you just call in and we'll do it that way. Whatever is best for you guys, I'll accommodate.
I'd really also like you to have the perspective of somebody like Kyle Morris, who was a kid,
Yeah.
And had this situation. My auntie started this college for teens idea. Now it's starting to become a common idea. But when she came up with it, she was like, in 2000, she was like, let's get some kids in inner cities who would never have a chance to see a college, to have time on an actual college. And she partnered with some HBCUs like Cheney to create an experience experience for these kids to actually stay on a campus in a college for 6 weeks during the summer when school was not in session. And then also the program went year round. So the luncheon that we have every year is actually the major fundraising activity for that. One of the things that I've been saying is that, you know, the approach now in the 21st century needs to change a bit. Doing this because we desperately need this outreach still. You know, if you look around every city, Chicago, Philly, you know, Miami, LA, New Orleans, wherever city, you can see it. I mean, this whole gentrification thing is moving us out rapidly. You know, they don't pay enough. They, you know, they're working on artificial intelligence and robotics. They're trying to replace white people in jobs, and white people don't even get it. Okay, they're the next. I mean, this is the funny thing too, because I went to do you know who Noam Chomsky is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I didn't know this until recently, but I went to the same elementary school as Noam Chomsky. Now he's like my grandmother's age; he's 90-something, but he is a linguist and a radical progressive. And he does not like the way authority manages humanity, basically. And a lot of my narrative, I went to the same elementary school as him, right? Never met him, don't know him. But, you know, I've been reading, I always listen to him, and I've been reading his works for years. And basically, the United States is really more of an oligarchy, and it is no longer working on supporting the concept of a middle class or the needs of individuals. And we are the first, Black people, we're the first ones to get plowed under the change, okay? And, you know, okay, so the school that I went to, the elementary school I went to, that Noam Chomsky also went to, was it's a non-religious but Jewish elementary school. Okay, it was like there were me and this other dude were the only Black people in the class, not in the school. My cousin, a couple of my cousins were there too. But anyway, what ended up happening is, first of all, when I was going to school there, Jewish people absolutely knew that they were not white. All right, what Jewish people think they're white. Now, if you ever looked up Ben Franklin, swarthy German, look that up on Google.
I remember reading that as I remember that. Yep.
The real definition of who is white by persons who are white supremacists means that you are from England and you're Protestant. Everybody else is non-white. Now, what changed is in the mid-1900s, when the counts changed on the majority of who is white in the U.S., they started including Irish, French, Italian, Jews, German, because they didn't want the narrative of the United States being white to change to it being non-white. Because they don't consider those people white.
Right.
Okay? It's temporary, giving them a little holding place. You know who Tim Wise is?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So he talks about that too. White people didn't love each other in Europe, okay? They abused and discriminated against their own people. And it's true white supremacists get it. People who have been sort of pulled into the fold temporarily, they think they're white. But, and I'm going to tell you this, you know, I've been wondering about the push for all this ancestry, DNA, blah, blah, blah stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finally occurred to me that they already know who we are that are Black, brown, Indian, Mexican. They know who we are. That's not who they're looking for. Because true white supremacists do not consider all these other ethnic whites, which means non-white, to be white. They're getting those records together so that when they get rid of, if they successfully get rid of the actual non-white people that they've identified as non-white, then also then go after the next one. Now, if you go back to Nazi times, right, there was he was actually a Protestant pastor named Martin Niemöller, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one that wrote that thing, First They Came For. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I've heard of it, yes.
Okay, so First They Came For. That's the narrative, you know? And where you see it, on one hand, we see, yeah, they're shooting a lot of black people, the police, and this, that, and the other, and they're locking us up, and this, that, and the other. But then when you look at the other thing, the way that our food and water and air and pollution is corrupting the planet, okay? They don't just do that to black people. They do that to everybody. All that McDonald's and crap that people eat, like, I don't go in chain food restaurants ever, okay? All that crap is causing people to have cancer, diabetes, high cholesterol, early death, all of that, okay? You got an opioid crisis here. That's a white thing. One of my friends who's black, she actually works for one of the big pharma companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, her education, I'm not going to name her and I'm not going to name the company, but her education puts her, she's a very high-level executive in one of these companies. That's why I'm not going to name her. But her position, first of all, her education doesn't allow her to see things the way I see them. She became a medical doctor based on the fact that she, as a child, watched people in her family die, but her education came through traditional medical channels. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, she's absolutely sincere in her desire to help people, but she is clueless about the nature of our food system. He asked me one time, and this is like 5 years ago, did you know that soda was bad for you? Huh? What? I'm drinking soda 20 years ago. Okay? Did I know it was bad for me? It's water, sugar, and chemicals. What is it other than bad for you? It has zero nutritional content.
Mm-hmm. Right.
She's a medical professional, and I'm not. And I knew that years ago. So, you know, it's the first they came for. That's what I'm saying.
I'm writing this.
We as black people catch the brunt of it early, and that does two things. One, it allows people who are also, like Tim Wise says, not liked. It allows them to feel superior when they aren't liked either. And it's not to say that race is a false concept. It's a false concept, but it's a construct that has a reality that exists in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. I'm we're on alignment.
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times when you tell people it's a false construct, they believe that you're saying that it's fake. It's real. The construction of it is false.
Mm.
But the narrative and the execution of it is real. We are actually being victimized by racism almost constantly as black people. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But the construct of it is based on a false premise. So it's not diminishing the fact that it exists, but it also allows people who are less able to grasp it to not realize, especially white people, that they are victims of it too.
Mm-hmm.
That they are being crushed, destroyed. Okay. Here's two things real quick. One, I work in business consulting, right? So when you define what a small business is in the USA, if you look it up, it says businesses with 500 employees and revenues between $7.5 and $10 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's small business, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at companies that actually have 500 employees and more than $7.5 million, that represents the top 5% of small businesses. 95% have 9 employees or less. And they're like in a couple 100,000 in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
That top 5% allows people to perpetuate a lie. And I'm going to break that down in another sense. There's another video on YouTube that says the hilarious way that Republicans define middle class. And I think the Young Turks. So what they have discovered is that the narrative on what middle to low income is in the United States, according to the Republican Senate currently, is the way they framed it. It means people who are earning $450,000 or more a year. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the median income in the U.S. is $59,000 a year in the whole U.S. Philly is $39,000. We're like broken. This is the biggest poor city. So the actual number, 450,000, that's actually the half of 1%. That ain't even the 1%.
Okay.
But when you frame the narrative and say that that's included, then you can do a tax break for middle to low income that benefits the half of 1%.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you and me are saying, oh, they're doing great for middle to low income, but they're not. They're doing it for the half of 1%, for the $400,000 income. When they're doing programs for small business owners, you're thinking, oh, this is the mom and pop shop that I use around the corner. But no, they're looking at people with 500 employees or more.
Okay.
So what we have here is they keep framing things with language that is not accurate, which allows them to say things to our face that we hear one way and they're interpreting another way. Now that narrative is against the majority of people that live in the U.S. of any race.
Mm-hmm.
As Black people, we're often at the lowest rungs of that, so we get stepped on and crushed the hardest.
That's true.
The hardest. Right. So anyway, that's my analysis.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, both of you guys. Thank you so much. I know you guys got a busy weekend ahead of you, so I don't want to take up any more of your time. If you want to do me a favor, when you get a chance, if you want to send me Kyle Morris's email so I can reach out to him, or his number, however you see fit, and I could set up a time with him to speak with him.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. We couldn't reach Kyle tonight because this all came up spontaneously. But yeah, I definitely want to connect you with Kyle.
Okay, appreciate that.
I'll do that one-on-one. But yeah, and then I'm hoping, Sly, that we can continue this beyond now. I mean, I was excited to connect everybody because we're right at the cusp of this. If we had more time, maybe we could actually come, to the thing. But we'll work on things, hopefully.
Well, we'll get it worked out. I'll definitely. I love traveling, so I'll definitely love to be back on the East Coast pretty soon. So yeah, it won't be an issue.
Yeah, and I want to again thank you again for all of us from the bottom of our hearts on you speaking out on this because it never did go away. It was always there. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just happy you guys had time for me. I'm just doing my part. I'm just here to do my part.
Yeah, and that's all we do is everybody picks their piece and does their part. And that's what it takes. It takes teams of us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So nice talking with you, and you take care.
Same here. You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Yo, so that was the late C. Delores Tucker great niece and her late husband or her husband. And so it was spontaneous. I've been working on this with them for the last 2-3 weeks, and it was just trying to nail down a time, and I just happened to have time for them today. So I did what I could to get them in. So I definitely will. These are gonna be my new best friends from Philly. So I will be in Philly soon. Obsidian. I'll be looking for you too, nigga. So yeah, I'm gonna chop this up. Like all the stuff about the connection with Suge Knight and C. Delores Tucker. I'll chop that up and make its own separate video just for that, for people that's just interested in that part of the stream. So I'll definitely do that. So just give me a couple of days. I'll get it stitched together for everybody. And so thank everybody for spending out time with me again, back-to-back streams. It's totally impromptu. So X, I see you in the building, brother. Genesis and Renzo, Callie. So I thank you guys. Where you at? Dinah's always here. Renzo, I got you. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of here. I got prep work to do. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. And like I said, give me a couple of days. I'll stitch the Death Row part, the Suge Knight, see Delores Tucker connection together, but in his own separate video. So you guys enjoy the rest of your night. I'm going to try and get some work done, and I'll catch you guys later. All right, peace.